So why has Matthew 17:21 been taken out of newer Bibles? Because I've seen a lot of videos where people are asking this question. The context for this verse is when Jesus' disciples are unable to cast a demon out of a boy. And in the New King James Version, it says this: "However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting." So is there a conspiracy here to take this verse out in order to denigrate the value of prayer and fasting? No, and here's why not. Whenever I come across a textual variant that I'm curious about, I usually go to my Greek Bible and see what the evidence is. So here's the book of Matthew in my Greek text, and you can see there's verse 17, 18, 19, 20, and then no 21, we go straight to verse 22. But at the end here, there's a note 4 at the end of verse 20. If we go down here to note 4, it says omit verse 21, and it lists these manuscripts that don't include that verse, and then it says add verse 21, and it includes the text of that verse that we just read, and it includes the list of manuscripts and references in the church fathers that do include verse 21. But if you notice here, there's this A, which indicates a high degree of confidence in the current reading that omits verse 21. If I look at a few other pages, you can see some other variants. There's a B rating, a C rating. These are lower degrees of confidence in those choices. So it gives you some evidence for what texts support the reading and what texts include the variant. So in this case, a couple of the most important ancient Greek manuscripts, including Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, don't include verse 21. But notice this mention of Mark 9:29. If we look at Mark 9:29 in the New King James Version, it says, "So he said to them, this kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting." To understand this discrepancy, you have to think about how manuscripts were transmitted in ancient times. This is actually a good example of one of the more common errors that would happen when someone is copying a manuscript in order to transmit it to another person or another church. The copyist is probably familiar with Mark 9:29, which has that same wording. And so when they get to that same story in the book of Matthew, they remember that wording from Mark 9:29 and they accidentally add it, or perhaps they think that maybe it got accidentally omitted, and so they add it there. What is much less likely is for someone who's copying to omit a specific verse just because they don't like it for some reason. The error is always in adding too much in, because the copyist never wanted to omit something important. They would accidentally add something that they thought was supposed to be there. In Bruce Metzger's textual commentary on the Greek New Testament, he gives this explanation for this verse. He says, since there's no satisfactory reason why the passage, if originally present in Matthew, should have been omitted in a wide variety of witnesses, and since copyists frequently inserted material derived from another gospel, it appears that most manuscripts have been assimilated to the parallel in Mark 9:29. And beyond that, if there is a conspiracy to remove references to prayer and fasting, then why do we still have so many other references to both prayer and to fasting in all versions of the New Testament? So to me, this is not a conspiracy to remove something from your Bible that should be there, but rather we just didn't know that this was the correct reading until archaeology discovered a lot of these ancient manuscripts.